Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Allie. The first quarter of 2024 is done. That's wild to me. I'm here to talk about all the books I read in March. I'm going to do some stats. I'm going to rank from least favorite to favorite. And then I might have a couple stats for like the first quarter, just a couple. This month I read 13 books. Guess how many were on my TBR? That's right, 0. I don't think I've done that bad like ever. I don't think I've ever just not read any of the books on my TBR. I actually did try. I DNF'd one of them. I'll get into it. I read 3,783 pages, which is an average of 122 pages a day. That sounds good to me, and it's not even including the books I'm currently reading. I DNF'd 2 books this month. Neither of them were bad though, so that's great. My average rating was a 3.58. I gave one star. I gave 1 3-star, 1 3.25. 5 3.5s, 1 3.75, 2 4 stars, and 2 5 stars. Genre breakdown, I read 5 horror books, 2 romances, 1 romantasy, 2 fantasies, 1 sci-fi, 1 general fiction, 1 mystery. And my DNF genres were general fiction and thriller. I also started 4 series and I read another series. That's nuts to me. I don't think I realized I did that. Publication year, in case you care. I read 6 books that were published in 2024, which I'm very proud of. My NetGalley score is going up. I read 4 books from 2023, 2 books from 2020, and 1 book from 2019. And then how I read the books, I listened to 4 audiobooks, I read 1 ebook. I did a mixture of physical ebook and audiobook for 6 of the books. And then I physically read 2 books, which happened to both be 5-star reads. So I think I really need to start reading physically more. It's just so convenient to pop that audiobook on. Maybe at the end of the year, I will see how I read the 5 stars and maybe do like experiments going forward. We'll see. Okay, now on to books I started and read. We're gonna go fast because my camera just shut off and on and deleted my footage. I swear, my camera might be haunted. It's mad at me for something. I need to figure it out and make peace with it. Also, I'm 70% kidding. Books I DNF'd. First, Piglet. I think I read like 45 pages of this. Nothing bad about it. It was actually really written well. It's just, it was a little boring. This is about a young woman who people call Piglet. She likes to cook, so that's probably a big part of it. She has a fiance. She's about to get married. She has some close friends. She's just living her life in her 20s. It says in the synopsis, and it's heavily hinted throughout what I read, that her husband or husband-to-be is going to tell her something like that's gonna F everything up. So I think the book is about her life completely changing. I don't know what that entails. I am curious to pick this back up if I see some really rave reviews about it. So if you've read this, definitely let me know what you think because I could be talked back into it. Again, it was written well, just a little boring for me. Then I started Insomnia. I read 38 pages, had to put it down. This is written pretty well. Like it is a little stressful for me, but it's hitting way too close to home and I couldn't deal with it. Like nothing even had really happened and I was so upset because there were some similar things in my life and I read to escape. Get this away from me. Coming in at a 1 star, possibly my least favorite book of all time. I don't know, definitely of the year, I'm hoping. Wings, Once Cursed and Bound by Piper J. Drake. I do not want to shit on this book again. If you want to see that, go check this video out because yeah. This is a book that I would usually have DNF'd, but I wanted to see it through for the sake of the video. And it's just, that's not fun to do because I don't like being mean, but this was written like the exact opposite of what I like. So there are people that I'm sure really adore this. Don't listen to me if you think you might like this. This is a romantasy. Our main character is a Thai bird princess of legend. She's a dancer. I think she's like 32. She ends up saying she gets these red pair of shoes. They're calling to her. They're very mysterious. She puts them on. The love interest, we get his point of view. He's a vampire and he is hunting down this artifact because it's very dangerous. It ends up killing people. You like dance until you die. And so he sees our main character put on these shoes. He's expecting her to drop dead. She can take them off. And so he's immediately in love with her. I'm only half joking. The two of them meet a villain right straight off the bat. The villain is chasing them and then the rest of this story is their quest trying to get these shoes off of her feet. During this quest, we meet a whole bunch of new characters and they are like different creatures, which is pretty cool. Like I said, I did not enjoy the writing. Relied heavily on dialogue. There was no inner monologue happening. I didn't feel close to this character at all. Insta love. Just go watch this video because I'm tired of this book. It was one of those situations where I really didn't like it, but but I was also so pissed off while I was reading it. That's not fun to do. Coming in at a solid 3-star is Burn the Negative by Josh Winning. Also, it's kind of funny that the 2 lowest rated books on March's wrap up are from a professional book recommendation person, but the 3rd one they recommended is a 5-star, so that's okay. This is a horror book, and our main character was a child actress in this cult classic film, and in the film people were killed off, kind of like a Final Destination situation, but then in real life back in the day the actors all started dropping dead except our main character. Our main character ended up changing her name. She moved to England, she puts on a British accent, and literally no one knows who she is, which I find hard to believe, but whatever. Now she's a journalist, and she is flown to LA to write a piece about the remake of this movie, and people start dying off. Our main character has to kind of figure out what's going on because there is a weird... That part was pretty cool, but more so she has to solve this mystery because like she's looking guilty. I really like the very end of this, not the epilogue, I think that was overkill, but the last chapter before the epilogue, that was so fun. I really liked that. I thought there was a little bit too much convenience at the end of this, or like the climax. I kind of wish the author had leaned more into the family drama and less on the fame and the movie and the actress. That part of it, I don't enjoy stories about actresses or actors if it's focusing like on a movie or on a set, things like that. I don't know what it is, I just don't tend to like it. There was some mixed media elements in here which was kind of fun. Different things like this. Definitely not an all-time favorite, but it wasn't bad at all. This was not frustrating at any moment, but it didn't have me on the edge of my seat, so it was just fine. It's fine. Just the other day I read Diavola for my reading 24 hours straight video, and I did give this 3.25. I think what's annoying is that if I hadn't have binged this on a day that I was sleep deprived, I might have given it a higher rating. So I'm very curious to know other people's opinions of this book. If you've read it, let me know in the comments. This is a story about a woman and her family and her go to a vacation in Italy. They stay in this place where there's a tower, and everyone in the village and like the caretaker who gives them the keys to the house is like,
yo, don't go up in the tower. Also, this place is really haunted.
And yet they stay there, and they continue to stay there even after lots of things are creepy. Our main character sees people that aren't there. There's children there that see things that aren't there. And also people are like getting pushed and shoved. It's not looking good. I liked a lot of things in here. I liked how creepy it was. This was definitely like keep your feet off the floor types of stories. I like the family drama. Oh my god. You start this book out and you're like, yeah, these people are kind of annoying, but they all love each other. And by the end, you're like, every single one of these characters sucks ass and I hate them. And that was really, really fun to read. I also like the switch up that happened, which I'm not going to tell you about because I wasn't expecting it. I think I have a thing with gothic stories where I get a little bored by them because, okay, we get it, the house is haunted, now what? And this book did a great job with the now what. I love the setting, and so I'm so confused as why I'm giving this a 3.25, but it's truly a feeling. I do think maybe this could have been shorter. There was a cringy monologue at the end, which I'm not a fan of, but even like halfway through this book, I was kind of I just wasn't having fun with this book for some reason. I think I liked the last half more than the first half. Yeah, this is just a weird one where it's just like, oh, I just don't know. It might just be me. Something about this is just making this a 3.25, and I honestly can't explain it, and it's pissing me off. The Invisible Hotel. This was the first book I read in my lost vlog, which I will not shut up about it because it still feels like the knife is in my back. I came up with this incredible idea. JK, it's actually not that cool, but you'll find out what it is soon. And I put in a lot of work. The footage was somehow corrupted. I think it's my SD card, but now my camera's acting up, so I'm scared. That's a problem for another day. I read this book during that video, and this is gonna get a 3.5 star. This is about a young woman who lives in South Korea. She lives in this small village, and in this village, all of the people have a bathtub in their house, but they don't use it for like bathing. They keep all of their ancestors' bones in it. Every single tiny little bone of every single person that's been in their family. And periodically, some people do it weekly, some people do it daily. Our main character's mother washes these bones several times a day to the point where like her hands are getting damaged. The young people in this town are kind of embarrassed by this because it smells. Like their clothes smell, they feel like they smell, but they also feel very connected to this. The weirdest part about the bone situation is that when you have a baby, you have to lie in the tub on top of all these bones, which sounds very uncomfortable, and you have to give birth on these bones. The bones in the bathtub, that was the coolest part. Like, I don't think I'll look at a bathtub the same. At the beginning of the story and throughout, our main character is driving this old woman to visit her brother in prison. And we learn a lot about this old woman's story of being North Korean. Our main character becomes obsessed with North Korea, videos online, everything she ends up looking at, like in the bathroom, there's newspapers on the wall talking about North Korea. She goes to a museum, there's like a North Korean exhibit. She's becoming obsessed. She also has some family drama with her sister. Her brother's in the military. Her mom is just, I don't know. I feel bad for her mom. The thing I thought I would like the most in this book is that our main character dreams of this hotel, and it's a very nightmare situation. It's kind of written coolly. It's very confusing, but also I just don't, like, it's not that I don't get it. It's just I feel like the importance of it was lacking. Like, what? I don't know. I don't get. It's not that I don't get it. It's that I don't know why this isn't more significant. This is a debut novel though, and the way the atmosphere was written in here, it was very, very well done. So I am excited to read more from this author because there's a lot of potential here. I did read What Feasts at Night by T. Kingfisher. This is the sequel to What Moves the Dead. I gave this 5 stars, and so I was very excited but also kind of scared for the sequel. This series follows our main character named Alex, who is I can't remember if they're retired or not, but they were a soldier. In What Feast at Night, Alex ends up going to their hometown, their home country called Galatia. But when they get home, the house is kind of in ruins, and the caretaker has disappeared with no note. Also, the townspeople are avoiding Alex. Things are looking really sketchy. There's also, what can I say? The villagers whisper that a breath-stealing monster from folklore has taken up residence in Easton's home. So you learn more about that. Also, look how stunning that is. I kind of wish that was the cover. There were some really cool visuals in here, and I love Alex. I love the characters. T. Kingfisher knows how to write a character in a witty but heartwarming way. I will be continuing this series, even though this one obviously didn't hit as hard as What Moves the Dead. The thing I'm scared of is that I like this book because it was a Poe retelling. And so a big part of my enjoyment was seeing the similarities between Edgar Allan Poe's original and then this reimagining. As far as I know, this is not a retelling of anything. It is like an original story. And while I think it was interesting, the visuals were great, there's something that just wasn't as fun in here, which makes me feel really bad because I do love Alex so much. I will be continuing the series though, so maybe I can get the same magic that I got out of this in the next books. We'll see. Just a couple days ago, I finished Butcher and Blackbird while I was reading for 24 hours straight. This is about 2 serial killers who kill bad serial killers, and they fall in love. First, they become best friends though, and that part was really, really sweet. They both obviously have a lot of baggage, and so you kind of get why they won't get together at first. And then as they get closer as friends, they don't want to risk anything. Like, they don't want to risk their friendship because who else are they going to talk to about their serial killer ways? Every year they would get together in person to kill someone, and it was a competition, and I like those scenes so much. The action in here was so good. It reminded me of Mafia romance, and I just ate it up. The actual romance in here did get pretty cringe. I didn't love all of it, but it was fun. It was very fun to read. Also, I listened to some of this on audiobook, and the main dude has an Irish accent. Love that. So yeah, I will be continuing this series, and I hope that the next ones are just as action-packed. We shall see, and I hope I have just as much fun, because wow. During the Lost vlog, I also read Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. I am so shocked at how much I like this, especially because this is not a perfect book. Obviously, I gave it a 3.5, so it's not even like my perfect book, but there were things in here that actually annoyed me. First, let me tell you what it's about. Our main character she's pretty young. How old is she? I think she's probably 18. She has a twin sister. They live in Italy, and I swear to God, do not read this book without food in your house, because this made me so hungry. The way that this author talked about Italian food made my actual mouth water. Like, it's watering right now just remembering. Our main character's family works in a restaurant, so oh my God, I'm so hungry just thinking about this. Anyway, our main character's twin ends up being brutally murdered. Our main character, her sister, and like her grandmother are witches. So they're thinking like she was killed because she's a witch. Our main character is truly devastated, obviously, and she wants to hunt down who did this. Also in this story, there are gods, and they are like the 7 deadly sins. And we do meet one of them. I'm scared of like what's not on the back of this book. Amelia sets out to find her sister's killer, even if it means beings using dark magic that's been long forbidden. Amelia meets Wrath, who is one of the princes of hell. I guess they're not gods, they're princes of hell, but she ends up working with Wrath, and I do really like their relationship because they truly hate each other. She kind of traps him into helping her. She does not trust him one bit. She also meets some of the other princes of hell. Those scenes were pretty cool. The fantasy elements in here were really fun to read. I love how this is written in the very beginning. It felt like so rich with detail, and I felt so close to this character, and I felt so bad for her family, but the writing kind of turned something sour for me. Does that even make sense? Probably not. It felt like after the beginning, the author was just writing scenes, and there wasn't really clear transitions into the scenes. There wasn't sometimes explanations of why the characters were going into certain scenes, and I found that really frustrating, but I could not put this down at all. I think it was just the magic in here. I think it was the danger. There was some action. There was some romance. I wouldn't categorize this as romantasy. I think that I've heard the series as a whole gets way more romancy, which I am excited for, but this one feels very fantasy and witchy. I really ate it up. The first book I read this month was Fruit of the Dead. I think this is a debut novel. It's a retelling of Persephone and Demeter. Basically, in all of these stories, Persephone gets kidnapped by the king of the underworld, and then her mother, Demeter, ends up searching the realm and world for her. In this reimagining, it's present day. Our main character, her name's not Persephone, I think it's Cora. She works as a camp counselor. She is flailing about. She thinks her mom's so annoying. She didn't get into any colleges, and so one of the kids at the camp, his dad, kind of woos her, and he gets her to sign an NDA to become a nanny, immediately takes her to his private island. There's like no cell service. Things are looking bad, like immediately. We also get the point of view of her mother, who is going through her own kind of work drama, but is so singularly obsessed with her daughter. This author did such a phenomenal job of making every single character flawed, even the ones that we're supposed to like. Demeter, she loves her daughter. She would do anything for her daughter, which like you really empathize with, but at the same time, she's really effed up with her daughter. There's this one scene. Check the trigger warnings if like that's something you want to keep in mind. The mother did not respond well at all, and it pisses everyone off, including me. But also she works for this very like eco-friendly company, and she's supposed to be like this moral center, but the company is kind of under fire for being super ignorant and problematic. Then we have the Persephone character, even though you really feel for her for some of the things she's been through, but also because she's flailing and she's lost and she's being manipulated by this powerful man. Those kind of stories just, ooh, I feel for those characters. But at the same time, Cora is so privileged, and she is so about that. Like, people call her rich and they assume that she is privileged, and then she'll be like, I'm poor. I don't think she ever said I'm poor, but she has said I'm not rich. But then she lives in Manhattan in an apartment with a doorman. She had like a private education. Her mother is offering internships to like Google and publishing companies and all this stuff, and our main character is just so oblivious to it all. And then even the Hades character, who is the CEO of this pharmaceutical company, like anyone that rich has to be doing some shady shit, and he's clearly taking advantage of this young girl, and it's so icky. But at the same time, you kind of feel for him because you learn more about him, and he's just really hurting, and he just wants to do all this for like love. This author did such a great job with that. Something weird though is that there is kind of some fat phobia. I don't know, I felt a little uncomfortable some of the descriptions. Let me know if you read this and you picked up on that. I don't know if I'm just being like overly sensitive, but whatever. I thought the writing was really clever and good, and the references to mythology, oh my god, I love Greek mythology. I've been reading it since I was a kid. So like the references to pomegranate and the river Styx, so things specifically to the Persephone story, even like Cora's name, Cor. But then there's some more subtle imagery to other mythological stories and just Greek myths in general, like lots of images of swans and mazes, and it was so fun to read in a mythological kind of way. I think the reason this didn't get a higher rating for me is because there was no true climax, and I kept waiting for things to get deeper or to really delve into some emotions or even just get a little horrific. This is categorized as horror. I have a problem. I have a bone to pick with whoever said that, because it's not. It didn't piss me off that there was no horror in here, but I was kind of waiting for it the whole time, and I think maybe that made the experience of me like sitting at the edge of my seat more intense, because I kept waiting like, okay, what kind of fucked up thing is gonna happen now? So yeah, I am very excited to read more from this author. Yeah, this is kind of fun, but 3.5 at the same time. Another book I read for the Lost Vlog is Ready or Not by Cara Bastone. This is a book about a woman who gets unexpectedly pregnant, and it's the 9 months that she's pregnant that we get her life. It's kind of general fiction-y in that way. We learn about her job, her friendships, her family, her love interests. This is technically romance. And there's a spicy scene in here, and it was so good. I don't think I've ever read, maybe I have, but this is definitely the best pregnancy spicy scene I've ever read. Like, damn, it was good. I like how no one in here was really villainous. Like, the baby daddy of the story, he is the owner of this bar, and he's a really nice dude, but like, he has his own insecurities and things like that. Our main character's best friend has had a lot of problems getting pregnant, and so there is a little bit of tension between these two characters, but it's never stressful, and it's never like a combative situation between these two friends. And then even our main character is flawed. She is very millennial feeling, like she's a little extra, what I imagine people describe as quirky. In that way, she almost feels like a character from Ali Hazelwood's books. I think the audio narrator also sounded like a Ali Hazelwood book narrator, and she wasn't. I looked it up. I'm not doing a very good job explaining this book, so let me talk to you about the romance, which was so fun. The love interest is her best friend's brother, he's just so perfect. He's so good. He's such a simp. He's so sweet. This was just a sweet book. It was happy, but there was emotion in it. Everyone's flaws kind of was brought up and inspected. Even our main character was called out, and I kind of love when that happens. I gave this 3.75, but it's basically a 4-star. This was just so sweet and nice and just a non-stressful story. I just love no stress. The last book I read in my 24-hour reading vlog was the Thursday Murder Club. And my God, I had to like keep my eyes open to read this, but I loved it. It's 4 stars. Honestly, some of the details in the last couple chapters, I feel like I dreamed them. And so I'm kind of confused. I'm gonna have to remind myself when I continue the series, which I definitely will be doing. This is about a group of elderly friends who live in a retirement community, and they meet every Thursday to discuss unsolved crimes. It's these 4 friends, and my God, they're so fun. Just the way this is written, it's so conversational. Everyone's interrupting each other. It's the most hilarious thing. It's just very energetic, the dialogue in here. A crime happens near them. Someone is murdered, and they start investigating because, hello, this is like fresh meat for them. They start talking to a bunch of different people, including a couple detectives who we learn more about. There's also like a tiny little bit of romance brewing in here. We meet a lot of characters. They're all so individual. Even one of the villainous characters, he's so funny because he was so, it's almost silly how villainous he was. I just had so much fun reading this, especially considering how sleep deprived I was when I read it. I've heard that this series gets even better, and I just can't wait. I can't wait. The last book I read for my Lost vlog was Thornhedge by T. Kingfisher, which is the second T. Kingfisher I read this month, and it was so good. I gave it 4 stars. I'm pretty sure this is a novella, and it is a fairy tale. It's sort of a play on Sleeping Beauty. Our main character is this toad woman, which is a very cool perspective to read from. She has been trying, I think for like centuries, to stop any princess from coming to this tower. She ends up befriending this one person who is trying to get to the tower, and they kind of have a quest going to the tower. We learn more about why this toad woman is doing what she's doing and more about her history. And we learn this from a dual timeline. The past timeline, that's where it's at. It was like being told a story, and because it's a fairy tale, it was just so good. I don't want to give too much away. It's obviously a very short book, but the villain of this story, I think, I don't know. I kind of want a story from her point of view because this villain was just iconic, and if what happened to this villain happened to me, I'd be fucking pissed. It was just a very interesting story, and I'm so glad that I gave this a 4-star because this is the 4th T. Kingfisher book I've read. What Moves the Dead was a 5. This book though, it was like a 2.5. And then What Feasts at Night ended up being a 3.5, and so I was like, oh, maybe T. Kingfisher just isn't for me, but yes, Thornhedge was so good. We have reached the 5-star portion of today's video, starting with Little Blue Encyclopedia for Vivian. I've never read anything quite like this. It was very interesting, and part of the originality of this is like driving this 5-star. Our narrator is this trans woman. She's not named. She is writing this encyclopedia for her friend who is also trans and who has passed away. Her friend who died loved Little Blue, and she also loved encyclopedias, and so our main character is like, okay, let me write a Little Blue encyclopedia. So all throughout it, it goes A through Z, and there's little illustrations, and it talks about about the different characters in this made-up show. The amount of details in here about this made-up show is so fun and cool, and I had to like go back and see who exactly we were talking about or try to remember a name so that when we got to the letter, I could recall who that person was. We never really found out what the show was about, and it just added to the random nature of this book. In between explaining this made-up television show, our narrator is talking about her relationship with Vivian and the people in her life. It was very touching. It was very sort of random and sweet and small town feeling. And at the very end, it was so heartwarming, and there's just something so innocently beautiful about this book, and I absolutely love it. I will say that the tone of this is kind of removed. It's very much feeling like I'm reading an article. That kind of made it more fun because our main character is like studying journalism, so it felt appropriate, but at this, I don't know. Usually when I give a 5-star, it is like skewering me in the fucking gut. This was more kind of like a separated skewering. There were so many times that I was reading this where I had to Google. I was like, wait a minute, is this real? Is this real? Because there were actors that were made up, and then there were actors being referenced that were completely real. There were songs that were real singers, but then like, I don't know, I couldn't tell all the time, and so I was constantly Googling like, what's this? And I think for this author to get me like so convinced that this Little Blue show was real is so impressive to me. And finally, we have my favorite book of the month, Annie Bot. This was a 5-star prediction, and I was so right. I read this in my 24-hour reading vlog if you want to check it out. This is a story about a robot named Annie. She was designed specifically to be this girlfriend to this dude named Doug. We learn more about these robots in this, I guess it's somewhat future, the robot talk, and I don't know, it was just really fascinating. I'm having so much fun with sci-fi this year, but I think the thing that made this a 5-star for me was that this is a story of something that's made, something that has a set of expectations, and she is being so stifled and manipulated and used, and it's just so heartbreaking. But this was also kind of funny and entertaining, and there was a thrilling aspect to a couple scenes in here. The second half was much slower, but I sobbed my eyes out because I got so much out of this personally. This is something that I wish, oh, I'm gonna cry again. I wish I had, oh God. I wish I had read this in my early 20s, or even, and probably not appropriate for me to read in high school, but I was reading some fucked up shit in high school. I wish I had read this in my early 20s just because, I have felt like Annie, oh God, I'm gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry, no. Just because this character is a robot does not mean that so many people, especially women, are going to relate to what she's going through, and it's so heartbreaking. How people, I'm gonna get so mad again. How people treat things that are inferior to them, it's like murder inducing. I want to just kill this man named Doug. Page 4, I was ready to slice his neck. This is a debut novel. I can't wait to read more from this author. What's up her sleeve? I don't know. This was just so fun, so emotional. There was so much to say. Selfishly, it was sort of therapeutic in a way for me. So that made it an extra 5 stars. Oh, this is so good. I kind of want to read it again immediately. All right, those are all the books I read in March. Pretty interesting month and pretty interesting first quarter of the year. I have now read 7 5-stars this year, which is more 5 stars than I read in the entirety of 2023. I read more 5 stars in the first 3 months of 2024 than in the 12 months of last year. That is so crazy to me. I don't think I'm actually gonna do stats for this because this video is long enough, but 3 of those 5 stars are sci-fi, which is crazy to me. That was actually one of my biggest goals this year, was to read more sci-fi, and look at me, it's really working out. We have 1 fantasy, 1 general fiction. I think this is categorized as thriller, but I think it's a drama, and 1 horror. So I'm so excited to see what the rest of this year, what the next quarter is going to give me. I'm so sure that I already have my favorite of the year, but I would love to see some competition. Let me know what your favorite of the month is and the favorite of the quarter. And obviously, if you've read any of these books, please let me know what your thoughts below. All right, I'll see you soon. Goodbye.